I visited Louisville, Kentucky on June 26th and 27th, 2021. Just for the record, I didn't see any cousins kissing each other and I didn't see anyone with missing teeth. Nonetheless, I split up the city and Jefferson County into 13 sections where I'll be able to show the entire city within a series of just over a dozen videos. In this series of videos, you'll see all of the good and all of the bad. So why not share a fifth of bourbon with your best bud or gal and come along to see the entire city of Louisville, Kentucky. Hey, it's Chris here and this is my 7th video on Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm here at Chickasaw Park. I want to say that this is a nice park, but I'm literally seeing trash everywhere. It also smells really bad. I don't know if that's because of the Ohio River right behind us, but I'm going to be going through Shively in this video and the area of Louisville that surrounds Shively. So let's get to it. Alright, fine. I'll admit, it was your boy here participating in the festivities the previous night at Chickasaw Park. I had to let out my inner Kentucky while I was here. On a serious note though, I could have picked a better place, as the reason why this whole neck of the woods stinks to the high heavens is because the Louisville wastewater facilities are to the right. That, combined with some chemical tanks belonging to Chevron, and just a little bit more to the south you have a Dow chemical facility. Yuck. Anyway, now you know not to party at Chickasaw Park. Make sure to drop a like for that amazing insight. Also, it's called Shively, Kentucky, not Shively, so my bad on that. Make sure to also comment and subscribe if you haven't already, as doing all of those things helps these videos destroy the evil monster that is the YouTube algorithm. Also make sure to hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time that I upload a new video. If you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy checking out some of the featured playlists on this channel. Videos with amazing insights on other places like what you see here can be found in my Louisville playlist or in my Kentucky playlist. Last but not least, if you can't get enough of me on here, you can always go follow me on my other social media accounts, and those links are below. I'll go ahead and start by saying that all of Shively and the surrounding sections of Louisville that I go through in this video are a part of the 40216 zip code. You can see the zip code boundaries outlined here in comparison to Shively. The zip code is home to a total of 42,000 residents, and the median household income within the zip code is $45,000 per year, and only 13% of adults 25 and older hold a bachelor's degree or higher. The median value of owner-occupied housing units is $127,000, and the poverty rate is pretty high, as it's at 17%. With that, you can see that this whole area would be considered as lower middle class. This is the part of Louisville that you'll most likely be able to see cousins kissing each other and people with missing teeth, as I kid about in the intro to my Louisville videos, as, let's just be honest, it's full of white trash. Oh, come on, not this guy again.
Cousins kissing each other and people with missing teeth? That's not just a Kentucky thing, by the way. That's a thing for the entire country. How rude of you to stereotype our city and state. I'd love to see where you're from. You should have cleaned up all the trash that you left at our park too. You're a horrible human being.
Aw, are you mad at me for calling Kentucky for what it is? I'll send you a bourbon-scented scratch and sniff in the mail to make you feel better. Where do I live? Well, it's a pretty nice place, so it might just make you angrier if I showed you, so I'll save you that. And pick up my trash? Yeah, I probably should have, my bad. Well, on a positive note, it looks like this street has quite a few nice trees that line the street, and a few nice homes as well, so at least there's that. Yeah, cool, neat. Alright, well, I'm gonna move on from that now, so yeah, we'll be in the city limits of Shively in no time. Like most areas of larger cities where the poverty is concentrated, one thing about the west end of Louisville is that you have hardly any nice grocery stores. You have a ton of Dollar Generals, Dollar Trees, Family Dollars, places like that, and you have several liquor lotto stores. Actually, you have quite a few of them, but you have to travel quite a way south on this highway here until you're on the other side of the Watterson Expressway, which you can think of as Louisville's Inner Beltway. Once you're on the other side of that, you can start to see at least some decent shopping amenities. Well, we are now in the city limits of Shively. We'll talk about the history of Shively shortly after this, but it was one of the first suburbs of Louisville on the Kentucky side of the region. In 1970, the town hit a peak population of 19,000. However, today the population count is down to 15,600. Shively is on the western side of Louisville, and the economic stats of Shively mimic that of all the other areas in the western parts of Louisville. The median household income is $39,000 per year, which is pretty low, and only 12% of adults 25 and older hold a bachelor's degree or higher. The median value of owner-occupied housing units is $107,000, and the poverty rate is a high 19%. Niche.com gives the public schools a C+, which means that the schools are average and not great. When it comes to the violent crime rate, Shively has a lower one than the national average rate. However, the property crime rate is over 3,000 for every 100,000 residents, which means that over 3 out of every 100 residents here will have to deal with some kind of jackhole trying to steal something from them at one point or another, or they'll have to deal with their property being vandalized or some other form of property crime. I mean, seriously though, Shively residents, you need to get a job and stop stealing from your neighbors or your local stores. Have some class, people.
Hot, coming from the guy who trashed Chickasaw Park the night before filming this.
Yeah, hey, you're right. I mean, that wasn't one of my proudest moments. I should have been better. Point blank. Here's a look, though, at some of the businesses along Dixie Highway in the northern part of Shively. You also have the Shively City Hall off of this main drag, as there really is no downtown. Crumbs Lane sums up this area pretty well, as it's a pretty crummy area. Yeah, just kidding guys, sort of, but not really. I'm sure that there's plenty of affordable homes in this area if you want to live here, and for the most part you can feel safe if you choose to do so. As we go on, you'll see that there are plenty of streets that seem to be nice and offer some peace and quiet. If you do end up deciding to live in this area, just keep in mind that there is usually a reason why home values are lower in certain parts of cities in comparison to other parts. For example, the schools in this part of town aren't rated very high. People on Reddit forums who live in this area, however, are pretty evenly split on the area. Some say to avoid it, while others say that it's quiet and safe. You can take what Reddit users say for whatever it's worth, but you've got to admit there is some legitimacy to a good majority of comments on there. Sometimes, just sometimes. And if you think otherwise, then you're being a hypocrite because you're a YouTube commenter. Come on now, you guys know I love you. Shively itself doesn't have a high violent crime rate, but there are parts of Louisville that are really close to Shively that see an abundance of crime. Take this map that shows where the homicides in Louisville have been for the year 2021, and you can see that this area is not completely void of crime.
No area is completely void of crime. Have you been living under a rock?
No, I haven't been living under a rock. That's a common thing, though, that people will whine about when they feel like I'm singling out a particular area. All you have to do is watch my video titled as The Best Areas of Louisville, which you can find in my Louisville playlist linked below, and there you'll see that there are some areas out that way on the east side of town where virtually nothing happens. Plus, I mean, I just showed you the stats on how Shively has a property crime rate that is well above the national average rate. But I'm putting this guy on mute now. He's had enough airtime. As I said before, there really is no downtown Shively, and there never has been. The first activity in Shively occurred in the early 19th century along Dixie Highway, which originally was called the Louisville and Nashville Turnpike. A stagecoach shop opened in 1831, and the Elizabethtown and Paducah Railroad was built in the 1870s. Shortly after, a large amount of German immigrants came through and settled in Shively. In 1904, a streetcar line was extended from Louisville to Shively. Shortly after, Shively started to get known for its whiskey distilleries after the Prohibition ended in 1933. In fact, Shively had 8 different distilleries at one point. The reason for distilleries setting up in Shively instead of Louisville was that the city of Louisville had some of the highest taxes at the time, and it still does today, so setting up shop in Shively was a lot cheaper. However, Louisville was able to talk Shively into incorporating separately in 1938 and then annexing their district instead of annexing the city. In the 1950s, Shively became the fastest growing city in Kentucky due to white flight occurring in the urban Louisville neighborhoods. Increased taxes closed most of the distilleries in Louisville during the 1960s. There are still a few distilleries that operate in Shively today, and we'll pass by them towards the end of this video. If you'd like to skip ahead to those parts, make sure to check out the timestamps down below. If you noticed on the location reference down below, we're no longer in Shively as we're back in the city limits of Louisville. You would have never have known that by just looking around as it all looks the same. However, it is all the same zip code, so it kind of is the same. Now we're off of the main drag and we start going through suburban Jefferson County. I don't call this Louisville, and I feel like most locals don't either, so I'm going to go ahead and call it suburban Jefferson County. In 2003, Louisville was able to annex all of the unincorporated areas of Jefferson County. There are more than 80 independent municipalities that are still left, but most of them are tiny and have less than 100 residents. Only a few of them are of decent size, and Shively, for example, is one of the largest municipalities that are left within Jefferson County today. Anyway, Louisville in all reality is not a large city, but the merger would make some people think that it is if all they were looking at was the population of the city itself. Louisville is home to 633,000 residents as of the 2020 U.S. Census, which makes it the 29th largest city in the U.S. As you can see here, both Louisville and Memphis have a huge land area, but the population densities are lower than the other cities that are listed here. With that said, it's no coincidence that both Louisville and Memphis have the smallest metro areas out of this small group of cities. As you can see here, the Louisville metro area is home to 1.28 million residents, which in comparison to the typical metropolitan area in the United States is not very big. And as I keep going, you can kind of see what I'm saying. It's a very suburban feel down this way, somewhat even rural. Well, hey, at least you have a Little Caesars and a Taco Tico down this way. I mean, what else could you possibly want? Here, things start to look really rural. A place called Lindsay's Kitchen? Doesn't get more rural than that. That's not a diss, by the way. I'm sure it's a great place. It has a 4.5 out of 5 on Google, so you know that means it's a good place, especially in an era where nobody hesitates to hop on their smartphones and write a horrible review of a place the second after they have a bad experience. The reason for the rural look, though, is that the Ohio River isn't too far into the horizon, meaning that the land likely was never developed and never will be, as it's on a floodplain. You also have a nasty power plant right here, too.
I see what your intentions were there. You purposely drove around the local Walmart, and this is after ripping on the place for not having any grocery stores. What an awful video.
Wow, that was completely random. I wasn't expecting that. What I said earlier in the video was that the entire west end of Louisville that is north of the Waterston Expressway had no decent looking grocery stores. All there was any kind of variety of dollar store, Dollar General, places like that. There were a ton of liquor lotto stores too, and that you had to go south of the Waterston before you started to hit some of the grocery stores. But wow, are you really that mad that I didn't show the Walmart? That just kind of shows you that this part of town is full of Mountain Dew drinking, Walmart shopping, flannel shirt wearing, yeehaw chanting hilljacks. In all seriousness though, I'm probably not wrong. Anyway, to the left is Farnsley Middle School. The school has a rating of a B- on niche.com, which is actually a better rating than many of the other schools have in the section of the city that I drive through in this video. Well, I'll catch up with you guys whenever there's something meaningful to say. At this point, I've ran out of bad jokes and hate comments to make fun of, so I'll say things here and there, but if you want to only see the places of note, then make sure to check out the timestamps down below. You can see here that there's some industry with Marathon oil tanks to the right, and to the left of the road are some facilities that are owned by the American Synthetic and Rubber Company and the Dow Chemical Company. Now we're heading back east, and it won't be long before we're back within the city limits of Shively. And here we are again in the city limits of Shively. Earlier in the video, I hardly ventured off of the main drag, but this time I go through some of the residential areas and I see some of the schools that serve the local population. From here, I went ahead and skipped the video towards the part where I entered the far southwestern part of Shively, which is where Western High School is. The athletic teams go by the Warriors. Apparently, it's one of 2 high schools in Kentucky to offer early college programs. Despite that, Niche.com gives the school an overall grade of a C-, which is not very impressive. And here you can see the Western High football field. Looks like you have a tanning bed laundromat combo up here to the left, and right next to it is the grocery store, which has the best chicken in town. Is that the best chicken in all of Louisville, or is it the best chicken in Shively? Are we talking chicken that you have to come home and cook? Is it fried chicken, or is it baked chicken? Well, if you've been to the tanning bed at this laundromat, and if you've gotten chicken from the grocery store, let me know in the comment section down below. This is Butler Traditional High School, home of the Bears. The school opened in 1954. Among the most well-known alumni include Vegas magician Lance Burton, current Atlanta Braves pitcher Adam Duvall, and actor John Wesley Shipp. Niche.com gives the school an overall grade of a B, so at least they can brag about that to their C- rated neighbors at Western High School. If you recall, towards the beginning of this video, I mentioned that at one point, Shively was home to as many as 8 distilleries. Shively was a popular place for business owners to set up shop in, as the taxes here were exceptionally lower than they were in the nearby larger city of Louisville. Today there's only a few left, including what we see here, which is the Stitzel-Weller Distillery. Originally, it was the Stitzel-Weller Distilling Company, which was named after the combination of the W.L. Weller and Sons and the A.P.H. Stitzel distilleries. One of the main brands of bourbon that were made here originally was Old Fitzgerald. The Stitzel and Weller Distillery opened on Derby Day in 1935, shortly after the Prohibition. The facility's website claims that it's home to the fathers of bourbon. The distillery closed, however, in 1992, but in 2014, it was able to reopen and is today a part of Kentucky's Bourbon Trail. Today it's home to the Blade & Bow, the I.W. Harper, and the Orphan Barrel brands of bourbon. To the right here is Michter's Distillery, which is one of 3 locations for the whiskey brand. The website claims that Michter's Whiskey is America's first whiskey company, as it was established in 1753. The main location for the brand is in downtown Louisville, off of Museum Row, near the Louisville Slugger Museum. The distillery in downtown Louisville is also known as the Welcome Center for Kentucky's Bourbon Trail, likely because it's in downtown Louisville, even though most of the Bourbon Trail is south of Louisville in the countryside of Kentucky. And obviously here you have some older warehouses, some in use and some not in use. Here, I finished the video by driving down another main drag in the area, which is called 7th Street Road. If you thought that parts of Dixie Highway were trashy, 7th Street Road makes Dixie Highway look like Hollywood Boulevard. After seeing this, you'll be able to finish out your white trash bingo card. Alright, well, that's enough fun for one video. In this video, you saw how Shively was once a mecca for bourbon distilleries, however today it's become a run-down shell of its former self, let's be honest. It might not look horrible while driving through, and I'm definitely not trying to say that all of the residents who live here are bad, but the schools in the area have a lower performance than the other Louisville area schools, that's what the data shows, and about 4,000 less people live in Shively today than while during its 1970 peak. You also just saw the main drag that I went through, and that kinda speaks for itself. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, as doing all of those things helps these videos destroy the evil monster that is the YouTube algorithm. Also make sure to hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time that I upload a new video. If you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy checking out some of the featured playlists on this channel. Videos with amazing insights on other places like what you saw here can be found in my Kentucky playlist or in my Louisville playlist. Last but not least, if you can't get enough of me on here, you can always go follow me on my other social media accounts, and those links are below. We'll see you next time. Peace!